The fate of Europe is in the balance right now. It's just caught in the middle in this economic trap between the US and Chinese rivalry. First, defense. America is negotiating directly with Russia when it comes to the future of the war in Ukraine. Trump wants Europe to butt out and the EU doesn't have much leverage. The US is even signaling that its days as the guarantor of European security could well be numbered. Could it pull troops or its nuclear weapons out of Europe? Could the US even leave the defense alliance NATO? Even the threat of it puts the EU on the back foot. It doesn't have enough well-equipped soldiers and enough tanks, bombs and jets to defend itself if a protracted war occurs. The fact is that Trump is right. The EU should have been making hay while the sun is shining and not relying on US taxpayers to subsidize its security. Next, the economy. Europe was far too dependent on Russia for cheap energy and for China as a growth market for its exports. The fact is that this economic model was rotten but hidden. China is gaining an edge in cars and tech, and Europe, well, it's losing competitiveness, market share and influence. Europe's troubles started with the energy crisis, which hit industries hard like steel and chemicals, making them less competitive and allowing Chinese competitor products to come in, and these tempt EU companies. They can buy these products as inputs, which means that they can keep their costs low. Big companies like Volkswagen depended on China for a major source of their profit growth. Now that that's slowing, these companies are having to cut jobs in Germany to survive. Plus, Europe's industries have failed to innovate. They just assumed that China would keep on making low-quality copies of European products, but now they're innovating in industries like e-cars with BYD or DeepSeek in AI. China has its own economic issues, sure, but that's for another video. With initiatives like Belt and Road, where China is investing hundreds of billions in foreign infrastructure projects, and also investments in AI and green tech, Beijing is securing global influence while the EU, well, it's struggling to find its footing. And here's the kicker. The Trump administration has made it clear with the threat of tariffs on the EU that it doesn't necessarily see Europe as its main economic ally, but perhaps as a rival. Meanwhile, the governments in France and Germany have been insecure, unstable to say the least. Plus, the economic growth there is so poor that they can't just turn on the spending taps to boost the economy. So now Europe is stuck, too dependent on China to grow its companies' bottom lines and too dependent on the US for defense.